Namo Om Vishnupadaya
Namo Vishnupadaya
Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale
Krishna Prestaya Bhutale
Srimate Bhakti Vedanta
Srimate Bhaktivedanta
Swamin iti namine.
Amen iti namine.
Namaste Saraswate Deve
Namaste Saraswati Devi
Gauravani Pracharine
Gauravani Pracharine
Nirvishesha Shunyavadi
Nirvishesha Sunyavadi
Paschatya Deshatarine
Paschatya Desatarine
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Prabhu Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhara
Sri Advaita Gadadhara
Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Srivasadi Gaurabhakta
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Hare Rama Hare Rama
Hare Rama Hare Rama
Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Rama Rama Hare Hare.
So this chapter starts, this aspect of this Gita starts from 10th verse. All of you can recite after me. Yoga yunjita satatam
Yoga Yunjita Satatam
Atmanam rahasi stitaha
Atmanam Rahasi Stitaha
Ekaki yata chittatma
Ekaki Yata Chittatma
Nirashir aparigraha
Nirashiraha
Yoga yunjita satatam
Yoga Yunjita Satatam
Atmanam rahasi stitaha
Atmanam Rahasi Stitaha
Ekaki yata chittatma
Ekaki Yata Chittatma
Nirashir aparigraha.
Nirashiraha.
So for those who are practicing, for those who wants to practice this yoga, a transcendentalist who wants to attain perfection in this yoga should concentrate Atmanam Rahasi Stitaha, his mind on the Supreme Self. Then Ekaki, he should live in a secluded place, Ekaki, and Yata Chitta Atma, he should control his mind. Then Nirashihi, he should be free from desires. Aparigraha, feelings of possessiveness. So a transcendentalist should always try to concentrate his mind on the Supreme Self. Yoga yunjita satatam Atmanam rahasi stitaha. In a secluded place, he has to practice Ekaki, alone. Yata chittatma, always controlling one's mind. Nirashihi, without free from all desires. Aparigraha, and feelings of possessiveness. So what is this Krishna consciousness? To be always engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord is called as Krishna consciousness. Your consciousness is always on Krishna. So how are those attached to impersonal Brahman or Supersoul partially Krishna conscious? See, we have to understand there are 3 levels of understanding the Lord. 3 levels of knowing about the God. One is Brahman, understanding the effulgence of the Lord. Paramatma, a personal expansion who stays in everyone's heart. Then it is Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord who stays in the spiritual world. So for example, you can understand there is a sunshine, there is sun planet, and there is sun god within that sun planet. So these are the 3 different places. By seeing sunshine, you can know there is sun in the sky. So when you pursue, you can see a circular circumference around the sun. You can know there is a shape for this sun. Then if you actually enter into the sun planet, there is a sun god who is overseeing, who is known as Surya Narayana, Vivaswan, who controls all the living entities by his sunrise and sunset. That's how our life is designed. How many sunrises and how many sunsets? Every sunrise and sunset, we lose one day in our life. So in that way, he is controlling all the life on this planet, on all the planets in the universe. The count is managed to sunrise and sunset. So similarly, this impersonal Brahman is a spiritual ray of Krishna, which is coming from the bodily effulgence. The super soul is the all-pervading partial expansion of the Lord, who is there only in this material world to accompany the living entity and to guide him and to support him. Thus, both are indirectly Krishna conscious and they are imperfectly Krishna conscious because they are not to the full realization of what actually Krishna is. That's why they are known as indirect and partial. Then, how is Krishna conscious devotee topmost transcendentalist? Because such a devotee knows what is meant by Brahman or Super Soul, because he has complete information about the Lord, Lord's energies, Lord's activities, Lord's leelas. So he knows what is Brahman, what is the level of Brahman, what is Super Soul. If you have to understand, because his knowledge of absolute truth is perfect. So now, did anywhere in Bhagavad Gita Krishna say, I am that Paramatma? Anyone has idea? Because generally there are many Vishnus and all, Vishnu also, but we don't say any Vishnu Paramatma, we say Krishna Paramatma always. Okay, can you open 6.31?
Prabhu, Hare Krishna Prabhu, that shloka is that Brahmeti, Bhagwaniti, Paramatmeti.
That is Bhagavatam. In Bhagavad Gita I am saying.
Okay.
You can open 6th chapter, 31st sloka in this chapter itself.
Sarvabhuta Sthitam Yomam Vajatya Ekatvam Astitaha Sarvata Vratamanopi Sayogi Mai Vartate. Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the super soul, knowing that I and the super soul are one, remains always in me in all circumstances.
So Krishna is clearly saying, I and super soul are one. Okay. Krishna himself is saying, I am that super soul. About that Brahman effulgence, he says 14.27. Can you open? Brahmano hi pratishtaham. That's the shloka.
14.27. Yes,
Krishna is saying, Brahmano hi pratishtaham. So, Amrutasya avyayasya cha shashvatasya dharmasya sukasya aikantikasya cha.
And I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness.
Actually, you are reading a different book, I think. The translation is something different. Okay, correct. So basically, the whole idea is Krishna is saying that impersonal Brahman is resting on me. Brahmano hi pratishta aham. In that way, he say impersonal Brahman is resting on me because effulgence is depending upon person. My shadow is dependent on me. Similarly, like that. So both this Brahman understanding and Paramatma understanding are partial details. They are not full about the Lord. That's why they are known as indirect or imperfect knowledge, because complete knowledge of the absolute truth is perceived only in Krishna, that is Bhagavan future. He's a person, his activities, his interactions, details, everything and all is there more in that. Okay. Then what is the instruction to all the transcendentalists? To be constantly engaged in particular pursuits so that they may come to the highest perfection sooner or later. So everybody have to do in that particular pursuit, whatever they are doing, but engagement should be constant so that the higher perfection they can attain. And what is that first business of a transcendentalist is to keep the mind always on Krishna. This is the point what we come across in most of the shlokas in Bhagavad Gita, to always focus the mind upon the Lord. And this chapter is mainly to control the mind. So the best way to control the mind is to focus on Krishna. And one should always think of Krishna and not forget him even for a moment. This is a Vedic instruction. Then how can one achieve the state of samadhi? One should always remain in seclusion, avoid disturbance by external objects, accept favorable and reject unfavorable conditions that affect his realization with perfect determination, not hanker after unnecessary material things which entangle one by feelings of possessiveness. So this is the perfect stage how one can reach through samadhi. And one sloka is also quoted in the book if you open, that is anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjataha nirbande Krishna sambande yukta vairagyam uchyate. So anasaktasya vishayan, not to get attached to many things. Vishayan means sense gratification. Yata artham upayunjataha, understanding the purpose for which they are there, artha. Then nirbandaha, without any further attachment. Krishna sambande, engaging them in relation to Krishna. Yuktam vairagyam uchyate, that is called as yukta vairagyam. Then prapanchikataya buddhya harisambandhi vastunaha, a vastu which is having harisambandhi, but you try to disconnect it from the Lord, prapanchikataya buddhya, in material sense. Mumukshihi parityago, if you want to get liberated, but you are trying to reject that connection with the Lord, and you want to try advance in renouncement. Vairagyam phal katyate, it is called as vairagya, detachment of Falgu. It is only external vairagya, but no practical basis in that. Okay, then all of you can recite this verse. Sucho deshe pratishtapya
सुचोदेशे प्रतिष्ठाप्य
देशे प्रतिष्ठाप्य
stiram asanam atmanah
स्थिरम्
आसनमात्मनः
nati uchcharitam nati nicham
नातिचितं
चित्तं नीचं
chailajina kushottaram.
कुशोत्तरम्.
And one more verse is there. Tatra ekagram manah krutva
एकाग्रं मनः कृत्वा
yata chittendriya kriyaha
क्रियः
upavishya asane yunjyat
युञ्ज्य
yogam atma vishuddhaye.
योगम् आत्मविशुद्धये.
Once again. Sucho deshe pratishtapya
देशे प्रतिष्ठाप्य
stiram asanam atmanah na ati uchcharitam na ati nicham chaila ajina kushottaram
कुशोत्तरम्.
tatra ekagram manah krutva yata chitta indriya kriyaha
क्रियः
upavishya asane yunjyat
युञ्ज्यात्
yogam atma vishuddhaye.
योगम् आत्मविशुद्धये.
So Krishna is explaining about this process of Astanga yoga, the basics. So to practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place, sucho deshe pratishtapya, and stiram asanam atmanaha. And he should place a kusha grass on the ground. Asanam, the ground has to be made, the basis has to be there. And na ati uchcharitam, na ati nicham. That ground should not be too high or too low. Chaila ajina kushottaram. It should be covered with a deer skin and a soft cloth. And it should be a sacred place. Then tatra ekagra manakrutva. The yogi should sit on it firmly and practice yoga by controlling the mind. Yata chitta indriya kriyaha. His senses, he is purifying his heart, and all the activity should be in that purpose. Upavishyasane yunjat. He should be asana, he should be sitting on a firm basis. Yogam atma vishuddhaye, for the purpose of purifying himself and fixing the mind on the supreme, on that one point. He should be able to engage in this practice of yoga. So this is the practice, what is to be done. So who cannot practice this meditation? One who is not self-controlled and whose mind is not undisturbed. So these are the requisites. Who cannot practice? Those who are not self-controlled and whose mind is undisturbed, is not disturbed, they cannot practice. Yoga societies in big cities become successful in earning material benefit, but are not suitable for practice of yoga. Nowadays, yoga means we are practically thinking it is physical asanas and reducing body weight, or trying to do some meditation where we can sleep peacefully. No, that is not the purpose. Yoga means the process of linking the soul with the Lord. That is the actual definition of yoga. And the best purpose of spiritual realization in Kali Yuga is chanting the holy names of the Lord. That is Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Iva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gatiranyata. In this age of Kali, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way than the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. So generally when we say, when we reiterate 3 times, means we are trying to communicate the importance of the subject. So here Shastras are reiterating Nasti Eva, Nasti Eva, Nasti Eva means there is no other way, no other way, no other way. Hare Namaiva Kevalam, Hare Namaiva Kevalam means holy name of Lord Hari is the only option. So that is the point here. So Prabhupada explains about this in the lecture. He says Chaila means a sitting place. So why it is covered with a tiger skin or a deer skin? Because this has some chemical effect. If you sit on some tiger or deer skin, the reptiles and snakes don't disturb you. It has some physical effect. There are so many medicinal effects in so many things. We do not know all the reasons, but God has created everything for our use. Every plant, every herb is a medicine. It is meant for some particular disease, for some particular protection. And it continues. Sucho Desha Pratishtapya. He must be situated in a very sanctified place. Stiram Asanam Atmanaha. The asanam, the sitting place, should not be changed. And how should the sitting place be selected? Na ati ucharitam, not too much raised, nor too low. And Chaila Jina Kushottaram. Chaila means a cotton sitting place. Then deer skin. Yogis sit on either the skin of a tiger or the skin of a deer. Why? Because they are in a secluded place and the skins have some chemical effect. If you sit on a deer skin, then the reptiles and snakes won't disturb you. There are so many so-called meditators might as well be asleep. I have seen them. As soon as you close your eyes, it is natural to feel sleepy. The correct process will help your mind to be unagitated, subdued, and devoid of fear. Generally, the yogis used to practice in the jungle and wondered if a tiger or snake or some other wild animal is coming. It is especially stated devoid of fear. So devoid of fear and also completely free from sex life. You see, if you engage in sex life, you cannot control your mind at all. That is the effect of brahmachari life. If you remain a brahmachari without sex life, then you will be determined. Okay. Next. Again, this is again a 2-verse process. Samam kaya shiro grivam.
Samam kaya shiro
grivam.
Dharayan achilam stiraha.
Harayan stiraha.
Sampreksha nasikagram swam. Dishascha vana lokanam.
Lokanam.
Prashantatma vigatabir.
Vigatabir.
Brahmachari vrate stitaha. Manas samyamya machitto. Yukta asita matparaha. Samam kaya shiro grivam. Dharayan achalam stiraha. Sampreksha nasika agram swam. Dishascha navalokanam. Prashantatma vigatabir. Brahmachari vrate stitaha. Manas samyamya machitto. Yukta asita matparaha. So one should hold one's body, neck and head erect in a straight line. Samam kaya shiro grivam. Kaya means body, Shiraha means head. Griva means neck. Everything should be straight. Dharayan achalam stiraha. And he should practice achalam without moving. Stiraha fixed. Sampreksha nasika agram swam. Nasika agram means the tip of the nose. He should stare. Sampreksha. Then dishascha na avalokayan means he should not divert in any other way, not seeing anything else. Prashantatma vikatabihi. His mind very peaceful, subdued, unagitated. Vikatabir, free from fear. Brahmachari vratesthitaha, completely free from sex life. Manas samyamya machittaha. One should meditate on the Lord within his heart, machittaha. Yukta asita matparaha. In this way, one should make the Lord as the ultimate goal of life, matparaha, as the ultimate goal of life, by being engaged in this process. So what is the goal of life? Is to know Krishna situated within the heart as Supersoul. So Krishna is the ultimate goal of life and Supersoul is the object of that yoga practice. Then how to realize the Supersoul? One has to observe complete abstinence from sex life, brahmacharya. One has to live in a secluded place and it's a purified, sanctified place again, not any other place also. And one has to practice controlling mind and avoid all kinds of sense gratification so that mind is not diverted. That's why it is to be focused upon the tip of the nose so that you are not completely asleep also by closing the eyes and you are not completely awake so that you will be observing all the other directions. Then, so what is the benefit of practicing this yoga process is to discover and see the Supersoul and not for any other purpose. So whole idea is to focus upon the Supersoul and not to get diverted by any other subject. And this is Vikatabihi. One cannot be fearless unless one is fully Krishna conscious. So that is one specific instruction. And the importance of practicing celibacy, brahmacharya, vow is meant to help one complete abstain from sex indulgence in work, words and mind at all times, under all circumstances and in all places. Karmana vansavacha sarvavastasu sarvada sarvatra maichunyo tyago brahmacharyam prachakshate. This is quoted by Yajnavalkya. So without practice of brahmacharya, no one can make advancement in any yoga. See, whole idea is to tapasya. Tapasya means to lose something, to sacrifice something. So either jnana, dhyana or bhakti. Practice of brahmacharya is very important. And strict celibacy or complete abstinence is required for jnana and dhyana process. So bhakti process is so powerful that one automatically loses sexual attraction being engaged in the superior service of the Lord. That is Vishaya Vinivartante. Niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjan rasopiyasya param drushva nivartate. That is quoted in second chapter, 59th shloka. By engaging in higher taste, one automatically loses the taste for lower taste. Then how does a jiva become fearful? Because of his perverted memory and forgetfulness of his eternal relationship with Krishna. Bhagavatam quotes this shloka, Bayam dvitiya abhiniveshata syad. Bayam is dvitiyaha, is second to us. Abhiniveshata syad, which is not actually our tendency. In this material world, because we have identified with this body, we are always fearful with something will happen to this body or something will happen to the bodily extended relatives or any moment, anything. We always be fearful of the situation. That's the nature of this material world. That's why one has to be very careful what to focus upon, what to identify upon, what is his original position. So Krishna consciousness is the only basis for fearlessness. And a Krishna conscious person is the best of all the yogis because of his perfect practice to see the Lord within. So he is yoginam uttamam, that he is the best personality. So Prabhupada says, if you close your eyes, meditation, you will sleep. I have seen so many so-called meditators, they are sleeping and they'll be making this snoring sound because as soon as you close your eyes, it is natural that you will feel sleepy. Therefore, half closed. You have to see, that is the process. You have to see the tip of your nose with the two eyes. And continuation, devoid of fear. And because free from sex life, generally the yogis, they used to practice in jungle and if he's thinking of some tiger is coming or not, what is that? Or some snake is coming. Because you have to sit down alone in a jungle. There are so many animals, tigers, deers and snakes. So therefore it is especially stated, devoid of fear and completely free from sex life. If you indulge in sex life, you cannot fix up your mind in anything. That is the effect of brahmachari life. If you remain brahmachari without sex life, then you can be determined. So there is one similar sloka in Bhagavatam. Krishna is saying, Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Sama asina asinaha samokayo yata shukam hasta utsanga adhyaya swanashagra kritekshanaha pranasya sodayen margam purakumbaka rechakaihi viparyaye napi shanair abhyasen nirjitendriyaha. So while seated on a level seat that is not too high or too low, asana asinaha, keeping the body straight, samakayaha yata shukam, and yet comfortable. Hasta utsanga adhaya, placing the hands on one's lap and focusing the eyes on the tip of the nose. Swanasagra kritekshanaha. So one should purify the parts of the breathing by practicing the mechanical process of Puraka, Kumbhaka and Rechaka. Pranasya Shodayan Margam, Pura Kumbhaka Rechakaihi. This is the breathing process. Then Viparyayena Api Shanair. And reverse the procedure. Abhyasen Nirjitendriyaha. Having fully controlled the senses, Nirjitendriyaha. Abhyasen, one thus practice pranayama process. So all of you might know what is pranayama. They inhale through one side of the nose and they exhale through other side. Again, they inhale from the other side and they exhale from the first side. In that way, there will be a balancing of the air, and in which one will be able to control the thoughts, mind, and focus upon the point of the nose and then upon the Paramatma. That is the pranayama process in the breathing. Then one more place in Bhagavatam. Sucho deshe pratishtapya vijitasana asanam tasmin swasti samasina rujukaya samabhyased. After controlling one's mind and sitting postures, one should spread a seat in a secluded and sanctified place, sit there in an easy posture, keeping the body erect and practicing breath control. The same thing. So all of us know a great devotee of the Lord by name Bhishma. There is one pastime in Mahabharata which talks about this personality's behavior or the mood. So during the battle of Kurukshetra, it was fought in a sporting spirit. In the morning they used to fight, and in the evening they used to meet each other, and so they used to discuss like a friends and relatives and all. So after some days, Duryodhana comes to Bhishma and he wants to incite within Bhishma the fierceness. Duryodhana comes and says, I know you are very much attracted towards your favorable grandsons Pandavas. So that's why you are not fighting to your fullest extent. You are not showing your valor and spirit and all. You are not acting like a proper Kshatriya and all. He was trying to incite the fiery nature within Bhishma. He was trying to enrage it. Then Bhishma becomes aggressive by his words and he says, no, if you don't, tomorrow you'll see my capacity. With these 5 arrows, I am going to kill all the 5 Pandavas. Or I am going to, or at least Arjuna is going to be killed, or Krishna is going to break his promise, like that he says. So then, first he says all the 5 Pandavas will be killed with these 5 arrows. Then Duryodhana becomes very happy and Duryodhana says, give these arrows with me because I know Krishna is very intelligent. He would like to manipulate and take away. So if they are with you, I'll keep it secure and safe. Tomorrow morning when you come to the battlefield, I'll hand over these arrows. Then Krishna, knowing the situation, he informs Arjuna that you go and meet Duryodhana. And once when Pandavas were in exile in Dvaitavana, that is near Vrindavan, there is a place where Yudhishthira was all staying in the forest. So Duryodhana wanted to show his opulences and all these things, and he wanted to make fun of Yudhishthira. So they came there, and there in that place there was a lake, and Gandharvas were already staying there. So Duryodhana wanted to vacate these Gandharvas and leave that place for them. But the Gandharvas are so strong. There is a fight between Kauravas and Gandharvas. The Gandharvas, which are represented by Chitraratha, they overpower Duryodhana, and Karna will run away from that battle. And Duryodhana and all his main members were all captured, and they are put into a jail. Then some of the people who had escaped from this place, they will go and inform Yudhishthira Maharaj, your brothers were all captured by Gandharvas. Please come and rescue them. So Bhima will be laughing. He will be saying that yes, they have got what they are supposed to get. But Yudhishthira says, no, they are all our brothers. Fighting between us, we are 100 and they are 5. But when it is with outside people, we are 105. It should not be. We should not discredit them. They are our brothers. So Arjuna and Bhima will go there, and they will try to fight. They fight with the Gandharvas, and they defeat the Gandharvas, and they release the Duryodhana and his party from the Gandharvas. So Gandharva, at that time Duryodhana becomes very happy, and he promises Arjuna that he will give him one benediction. Arjuna says, "No, I don't want anything right now. When circumstance come, I would request you." So now now Krishna reminds him that once Duryodhana had promised you, now you can go and ask Duryodhana to give that 5 arrows. So that day evening, Arjuna goes to meet Duryodhana. Duryodhana welcomes him, and there were after doing questions and all. Then Duryodhana says, "What is the purpose of your visit?" Then Arjuna reminds him that there was one benediction which he had promised. Duryodhana says, "Yes, I remember. What you want? Do you want this fight to stop, or do you want this kingdom back, or anything and all?" Then Arjuna says, "No, I don't want any of these things. I just want that 5 arrows which you have brought from Bhishma. Give it to me." So Duryodhana, without thinking, because he has given a commitment, he gives that 5 arrows, and Arjuna comes back. The next day morning, Bhishma in the battlefield, he will be asking, "What is the status? Where are my 5 arrows?" So then Duryodhana is silent, and Bhishma could understand it is a manipulation of Krishna. So then he takes a vow, because Krishna had taken a vow before the battlefield that he would not touch any weapon, and he would be there in the battlefield without any weapon. He would not touch any weapon. So Bhishma says today either his dear friend Arjuna should die, or Krishna had to break his promise of touching a weapon. So Bhishma fights very valiantly. Arjuna's chariot was almost to be destroyed, and Arjuna was almost to be killed at that last particular point. Krishna, seeing that the situation that he has to protect the word of Bhishma, who is a great devotee of the Lord, and he has to protect Arjuna, he comes down the Ratha, and he picks up one chariot wheel, and he starts attacking towards Bhishma. As soon as Bhishma sees that Krishna is coming forward to attack him, he immediately keeps his bow and arrow aside, and he invites the Lord, "Please come and kill me. What better way is to die in the hands of the Lord?" So Arjuna is running behind Krishna, and he's holding his leg and trying to pull him back by saying, "My dear Lord, please do not break your promise for me, because you have promised that you will not touch a weapon and you will not fight. So please refrain from your fighting. Please reduce your anger." So in that way, at that particular point, that day's war is finished, and Bhishma's pratigna is maintained, and Arjuna is also protected. So Krishna is ready to break his promise to protect the name and fame and the vow of his devotee. That's why in 9th chapter, 31st sloka, Krishna says, "O Arjuna, you declare to the world, Kaunteya pratijanehi name bhakta pranishyati," that my devotees will never perish. So if Arjuna declares, because Krishna is very much committed by the words of his devotee, Krishna will try to stick on, because Krishna says, "Sometimes I may break my promise, but if my devotee gives a promise, I will naturally stick on to it." That is his perspective. So in that way, that commitment, the story, that determination, how one has to handle, how one has to practice this system. One should be very liberal. One should be very committed. You at the same time, you are liberal and you are very committed. Either in case of Duryodhana, or in case of Bhishma, or in case of Arjuna, or in case of Krishna, you see the sporting spirit. So this is the perspective what we understand from a great devotee of the Lord by name Bhishma. Okay. So then 15th verse, all of you can recite this verse. Yunjan evam sadatmanam
Yunjan evam sadatmanam
yogi niyatamanasah
yogi
niyatamanasah
niyatamanasah
shantim nirvana paramam
nirvana paramam
mat samstam adhigacchati
adhigacchati
yunjan evam sadatmanam
Yunjan
evam
sadatmanam
yogi niyatamanasah shantim nirvana paramam
nirvana paramam
mat samstam adhigacchati. So yunjan evam sada atmanam, by practice, thus practicing the control of the body, mind and activities. Yogi niyatamanasah, the mystic transcendentalist, mat samstam adhigacchati, he attains to the kingdom of God. Shantim nirvana paramam, by cessation of material existence. So this verse explains the ultimate goal in practicing yoga. That is, the yoga practice is not meant for anything, attaining anything of material facility like improvement in health, or material perfection. It is to enable the cessation of material existence. Nirvana paramam shantim. So one should end the material existence. So what does cessation of material existence means? Enables one to enter into the spiritual sky, mat samstam adhikachyati, or the abode of the Lord. Then who can enter into the Lord's abode? A consummate yogi who is perfect in understanding Lord Krishna can attain real peace and ultimately reach Goloka Vrindavana. So how is a Krishna conscious devotee a perfect yogi? Because his mind is always absorbed in Krishna's activities. Savai Manah Krishna Padara Vindayo. He is absorbed, all his activities are diverted towards the Lord. That's why he is a perfect yogi. And the example is given of Ambarish Maharaj. In Navaveda Bhakti, he is perfected in all categories of items. Then what is the perfection of yoga system? Is attainment of freedom from material existence and not some magical jugglery or gymnastic feats to befall innocent people. So this is not the purpose of yoga system, to attain some Astanga yoga or some magical sticks or some gymnastic feats of body control or all these things and all. So they may make your body perfect, but they will not liberate us from the cycle of birth and death. So in one lecture, Prabhupada explains this subject. Shantim nirvana paramam mat samstam adhikachyati. And after extinguishing this material life, then what is the next? Next is not void, as they say. Bhagavad Gita does not say like that. Bhagavad Gita says, mat samstam adhikachyati. He enters into my establishment. Now, when you speak of establishment, suppose a big man, he has got establishment. So that does mean it is not void. Establishment means there are varieties of engagement. Unless it cannot be samstam, so here it is clearly said, mat samstam adhikachyati. One attains to the kingdom of God where spiritual varieties are there. They are not varietyless. Otherwise, the Lord would not have said that word samstam. Just like you have a regular establishment in your household affairs. Similarly, the Lord has a regular household establishment in the spiritual world. These processes are simply to qualify himself to enter into that establishment. We are all belong to that establishment, but being forgetful, we are now in this material world. So this is a story about a small girl and an atheist who are traveling in an airplane. So this airplane, they are sitting next to next. This atheist wanted to make a conversation. He saw the small girl was reading some book about some philosophy on God and all these things and all. Then he started making striking a conversation with that girl. He said, "Do you want to talk?" He said, "Flights go quicker if you strike a conversation with your fellow passenger." That little girl started replying to the stranger, "What would you like to talk about?" This atheist said, "No, I don't know anything. How about whether there is God or whether there is heaven or hell or a life after death?" Something like that and all he was mentioning. So then, and he smiled. Then she said, "Okay, those could be interesting topics, but I have one question before that. There is a horse, there is a cow, and there is a deer. They all eat the same stuff, grass. But yet the deer excretes like little pellets. A cow dumps like big dung, but a horse produces clumps. What do you suppose? What do you suppose? Why is this variation? Because the input is the same thing, the grass." The atheist was visibly surprised by the little girl's intelligence. He starts thinking about it and he says, "I have no idea." Then the girl replies, "Do you feel really qualified to discuss about God, heaven or hell or life after death when you don't know even about this shit?" Then she goes back to her reading. Sometimes people want to show off that they are better personalities. They know many things about the subject, but actually we are all ignorant about most of the topics. And we are supposed to engage in the system where by learning, by discussing, by inquiring, we understand, come closer to the Lord and make our life a better place by staying here and after quitting this body, go back home, back to God. That goal of life people are missing and they're simply focusing upon unnecessary things. So there is a shloka in Bhagavatam which explains this subject. Dharma acharitaha pumsam van manah kaya buddhibihi lokan vishokan vitarati atanantyan asangina. So those who live according to the religious principles and who follow them by words Van manasa kayaha buddhivihi, by their mind, body and intelligence, acharitaha pumsam, dharma acharitaha, are elevated to the heavenly kingdom. Lokan vishokan vitarati, which is devoid of all miseries. Being thus rid of the material influence, asanginam, they achieve ultimate happiness in life. Ata anantyam, so they achieve ultimate happiness. Then all of you can repeat this verse. Na asnatastu yogosti. Na chai ekantam anasnataha. Na chati swapnashilasya. Jagrato nayeva charjuna. Nati asnatastu yogosti. Na chaikantam anasnataha. Na chati swapnashilasya. Jagrato naiva charjuna. So there is no possibility of one becoming a yogi. Some prerequisites, what are the don'ts, are explained in this verse. O Arjuna, if one eats too much, na ati asnatasaha, or eats too little, na chaikantam anasnataha, na chati swapna shilasya, or sleeps too much, jagrato naiva charjana, one who does not sleep enough. So these are the prerequisites. If you want to become a successful yogi, you should not eat too much or you should not eat too less, sleep too much or sleep less. So why it is? So why eating more is not recommended? Eating more means eating more than required to keep the body and soul together. Eating foods not offered to Lord, one will suffer sinful activities, sinful reactions because of eating polluted things. This is already explained in 3rd chapter, 13th sloka. So one who eats sin and eats more than allotted to him, we cannot execute perfect yoga. Because if you eat food which is not prasadam, the consciousness might get affected. In that way, you will not be able to focus upon yoga. That's the point here. Why only a Krishna conscious person can attain perfection in yoga practice? Because he does not eat anything which is not first offered to the Lord. And he observes fasting as recommended in scriptures, so becomes competent to perform yoga practice. So what happens when one eats more? One eats more than required, then will dream very much while sleeping. He has sleep more than required. More the one sleeps, he is influenced by mode of ignorance. Under the mode of ignorance, one is lazy and prone to sleep a great deal further. Such a person cannot perform yoga. So it is a systematic connection. One, if you eat more, you'll feel more to sleep. The more you sleep, the more you become lazy, the more you cannot focus upon yoga. That's the point here. So material civilization is like fever. The temperature should be 98 degrees. If it falls below 98 degrees or rises above 98 degrees, that is not good. Similarly, our program is not to increase to the death point, neither to decrease it nor to the death point. Yuktahara viharasya. We don't say don't eat, but don't eat more or don't eat less. That is our program. We don't prohibit anything. We don't say no sex life, but regulated sex life. Actually, this sloka is continued in the next verse. Jihvayati pramatinya jano rasa vimohitaha mrutyam ruchyati asad buddhir meenastu badishayaryata. Just as a fish incited by the desire to enjoy its tongue loses its life, meenastu badashayaryata, being pierced by the fisherman's hook, mrutyam ruchyati asad buddhihi. Foolish people meet with ruin, being disturbed by the urges of uncontrollable tongue. Jihvayati pramatinya jano raso vimohitaha. They are bewildered. Vimohitaha. So there is an interesting finding. Generally, the average lifespan is 65 years. So how do we spend the 65 years? So we sleep for 22 years in the 65 years, 1/3. Daily routine, 2.5 years. Meals, 5.5 years. Commuting, around 5.5 years. Work, we spend about 16 years. Miscellaneous, we spend around 2.5 years. And personal discretion, about 11 years. In total, the 65 years lifespan, this is our return of investment on life. So most of the time, 1/3 is lost in sleep itself, 8 hours of sleep in 24 hours. So we have to be very careful. Where am I investing? Why in Vedic times it is said that rise early, sleep early to rise early? So actually there is an interesting scientific system. That's how the God has created this body. So in every one of our body, there is a small gland called as pineal gland in our head. And it is considered to be the biological clock of the human body. And it is also connected to the sight nerve. This small is the size of a small pea. Every day after sundown, this gland starts producing a substance called melatonin, which runs in the bloodstream and protects the body from cancer. And this gland works only in the darkness. And if the eye is exposed to light, the gland does not work because it thinks still night has not yet come. So if we stay up at night in the light, we are depriving our body from this daily vaccine. So generally our elderly people, our parents and grandparents, and they used to say early to bed and early to wake up. Most of them did not suffer from cancer or any of these diseases, what we hear today. Because God has placed the daily vaccine within our body to protect us. So we should use it properly so that by sleeping early, the gland works from dark until 2 hours before sunrise. So early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. This is systematic scientific finding. See how Lord has planned everything what is required for us. And he has given us the complete details, how one has to handle the system also. So one has to be careful enough how to know and what to do. So this is the best way by which we handle the situation also, and we get the best benefit out of the bad bargain. Because this body is bad. Any moment it will create trouble. And the troubles are of three categories: Adhyatmic, Adibhautik, and Adidaivik. Adhyatmic means trouble within the body, fever, pain, disease, something like that. Adibhautik means from other living entities like war. Somebody comes try to attack us, some mosquito bites us, excessive, that is from some other living entities. Then Adidaivik means excessive heat, excessive cold, earthquake, famine, all these things. So in that way, we are continuously under these three types of problems. So how to better come out of it and how to handle the situation and how to focus upon going back home, back to Godhead is this yoga process. The linking process is the best way is through Bhakti Yoga. So how Bhakti Yoga is best, we'll be discussing in the further verses of this chapter. And what is problem with this Astanga Yoga is also concluded by Lord Krishna in the end of this chapter. So in this way, we know that what we are supposed to do out of this yoga system and how we can perfectly process and how we can also go back home, back to Godhead at the end. So I'll stop here. Any questions or doubts? Okay, then thank you very much. When there are no questions, we'll again meet in the next week. And
Thank you, Prabhu.
okay.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thanks, Prabhu.